The fantasy playoffs are almost here. But first, you got to get in, or maybe you're just looking to wrap up that bye, clinch the top seed, whatever it is. Let's make sure you got the right running backs in your lineup. And unfortunately, the bye-pocalypse for real is happening. We got 6 teams and a lot of good ones on bye this week. That includes the Ravens, the Texans, the Commanders, the Colts, Patriots, and Broncos. Some familiar names are out this week, but there's still a lot of running backs you can trust. These are the must starts at the position for week 14. Saquon Barkley, Devon Achane, Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, and Jahmyr Gibbs. You definitely want to make sure you get the right players in your lineup this week, but also make sure you get the right picks in when you set your underdog NFL pick'ems. Look, this week, you still get a chance for a free new customer special if you're signing up for the first time on Underdog. On Thursday, once again, Jordan Love just needs 1 yard. That's right, take the higher on 0.5 total yards for Jordan Love when you make your NFL pick'ems. You get this freebie if you're signing up for the first time and you use code NGAME on Underdog. You also still get up to $1,000 worth of bonus cash on your initial deposit. Just make sure you use code NGAME when you sign up. So just like last week, we got the Packers and the Lions both playing on Thursday. This time, it's a big matchup against each other. Josh Jacobs, it's just, you got to keep rolling him out there. He keeps scoring. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I think we can put that whole whiteboard thing behind him. You still play him if you got him. Is Monty close to being a must start?
I don't know about must start, but I think he's a very solid start, like one of the best solid starts, borderline strong start. The Packers aren't like the worst run defense, but they're certainly not the best. He can always score, so very solid start.
I mean, it was interesting to see Dave Montgomery get more than twice as many carries as Gibbs last week. I think that was just because it was the Bears and Thanksgiving, the veteran, getting him, his time in the spotlight. Monty is what he is, a guy who can score every single week, and he is still a solid start. On Sunday, the Jets are going to play the Dolphins in Miami this time, nice and warm for the Fins. So Breece Hall, well, really this has just been a continuation of, it's been a disappointing season for fantasy. We got to know that the knee is right, and we got to know that he's going to actually touch the ball enough to be fantasy relevant. You think those things happen?
I don't know. I have my doubts. I'm not going to lie. I have my doubts. And the Miami run defense has been better lately. I think I'm also just going to put Breece Hall as a solid start this week. But if I had to choose between him and Monty, I'd probably play Monty.
I hear you, and I probably would feel the same way. Now, this will change possibly depending on the practice reports. If that knee soreness kicks in and he's missing practices, or we hear that a lot of the same stuff as last week, I might move him down to the flex tier, but for now, let's keep him in the solid tier. I can't say it's been as disappointing, but Braylon Allen somehow not benefiting here. It seems like they're using him less as the season goes on. What's up with that?
I don't know what's up with that. I mean, what's up with the whole Jets offense? But I do know there's no chance I could have Braylon Allen in my lineups this week.
No, there's no way he should be starting, although I will say he is still someone to stash, because what if Breece Hall does miss a game? You probably at least have some interest in Braylon Allen there, so keep him, but don't play him. Falcons taking on the Vikings this week. Bijan has been rolling. You're good if you have him. Aaron Jones, not so much. I mean, is he going to stop fumbling? And if so, is he going to have a big game again finally?
Who knows if he's going to have a big game again. The Falcons, not a great matchup for running backs. I feel like I've been too high on Aaron Jones this year, but over the last couple of weeks, I've been dropping him down. I think I'm going to drop him down again this week to just a flex start.
Yeah, he's been really frustrating, but I also feel like this is kind of what Aaron Jones has done, right? He's been, as far as running backs go, pretty boom bust over the last couple of years, even back when he was with Green Bay. He tends to finish strong. He tends to perform well when he gets the bulk of the carries. I would at least say he should be a solid start, because he should have been a really good option last week, if not for the fumbles. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and see that he, tightens things up. Saints taking on the Giants this week. Now, as far as the G-men go, it's probably going to be a little bit of both Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary. Let's start with Tracy. How do you feel about him?
Can't feel great. Only had 2 more carries than Devin Singletary last week. He did get more involved in the passing game than Singletary, so that's nice. And he did score. That's also nice, but cannot feel good right now. I know it's a good matchup against the Saints, but man, this Giants offense, splitting carries, I can only say Tyrone Tracy is a flex this week.
I want to be able to give the benefit of the doubt to Tracy, but this really lands on Brian Daboll. I mean, I understand Tracy for his fumbling issues. He had to see the bench for a little bit, and now I feel like he's going to have to work his way back. I think it's possible Tracy kind of takes over the lead role again, and it's such a good matchup. The Saints give up over 5 yards per carry to running backs, but I can't put him any higher than that because there is a lot of risk here. So I want to flex him, but that's as high as I can go. That said, does Singletary have any standalone value?
Only in a very deep league if you're very desperate. He doesn't have the juice that Tracy does, not catching the passes. I'm going to avoid Singletary.
Even though there's so many teams that are off, so many big name running backs that are off, you need upside. And Singletary just doesn't have it, not in this offense. Panthers at the Eagles. Thought you would have two bell cow backs here. And now we have some questions about Chuba Hubbard. Is he going to continue to lose work, or at least touches, to Jonathan Brooks? And where do you put him this week?
You got to think he's going to continue to lose touches to Jonathan Brooks. And this is a tough matchup against the Eagles. Again, I think I have to drop Chuba Hubbard all the way down to a flex, which is really sad because he'd pretty much been locked into that strong start tier. But tough matchup. Jonathan Brooks lurking, only a flex this week.
Well, I wouldn't drop him too far, except that it's a road game against the Eagles, which is one of the toughest run defenses. And you got to think that game script's not going to favor the Panthers and be able to just run the ball. So, yeah, this week, not looking good for Chuba. But good news is the schedule lightens up a whole lot the rest of the way. So if Chuba's just a flex for both of us, is Brooks also a flex or not even?
Not even a flex. Can't count on him getting enough touches here to be fantasy relevant yet. I'm going to avoid him.
We need to see at least double-digit touches on a regular basis, at least more than once, before we can even consider flexing him. Now, hopefully this video helps you with all your start-sit decisions, but if you still have questions for start-sit, waiver wire trades, or anything fantasy football related, use the Draft Lane app because that connects you directly with Chris and myself for all your fantasy football needs. Download it for free right now. Browns at the Steelers, another longtime rivalry and division game here. Let's talk Nick Chubb. How does he do on the road against the Steel Curtain?
The problem with Nick Chubb is you just don't get a lot as far as yards goes here. You have to get a touchdown. So Nick Chubb, this is a tough matchup. I mean, he's borderline avoid, but I will say because he gets the bulk of the carries and he could score, touchdown-dependent flex.
And is Nick Chubb going to ever be anything more than a touchdown-dependent flex this season? No. This is exactly what we expected. Preseason, midseason, didn't want to pick him up, trade for him, etc. He could score a touchdown, but don't count on it. So I'm going to say, only because it's the Bipocalypse, he's a flex option. Now, we did see a little bit more Jerome Ford than we expected on Monday Night Football, but still, is there a path to fantasy production here?
I don't think so. It's on the road against the Steelers. This feels too desperate for me. I'm going to avoid Jerome Ford, even in the Bipocalypse.
As am I. I mean, too many ifs, too many very lucky breaks would have to happen. You got to trust the matchup, and it's not good. Now, on the other hand, Najee Harris had himself a pretty good game last week. That was a shootout against the Bengals, of course. What does he do against this Browns defense?
It probably turns back into Najee Harris. Yeah, that game last week kind of came out of nowhere for me. I'm not expecting that again. But he gets the touches. He does catch some passes. He could always score. So, again, a flex.
Well, I really thought it would be a nice Jaylen Warren game. And somehow Najee became the pass-catching back of choice, just randomly. I don't expect that to continue, but I will say this Browns defense isn't scary. They're at home. They should be able to establish the run. I think he's at least a solid option this week based on how he's being used. Okay, so where does that leave Jaylen Warren for you?
Hopefully on your bench. I would not want to start Jaylen Warren this week if I can help it.
Well, I guess I'm a little higher on both Steelers. I'll put Warren as a flex option. He's being used as a runner. He can always catch some passes, maybe score, so I'll say he's flex worthy. Our Raiders at the Buccaneers. This is an interesting one. The Raiders have a new RB1, at least for now. Looks like Sincere McCormick, the undrafted rookie, if you will, out of UTSA. Can McCormick continue to produce?
Maybe. It's a great matchup for him, but I mean, it's the Raiders. We aren't quite sure yet about Amir Abdullah or Zamir White. What is really the upside for Sincere McCormick, even in this matchup? I'm going to say no to McCormick.
I would probably say no if there weren't so many running backs out. I think he could be worth a flex. I mean, he's shown the ability to at least break some tackles. He's being used. This Raiders offense has got a little bit of a spark with a different quarterback as well, and really just because it's the Bucs. It's the Bucs defense. You could do worse at flex. All right, so what about Amir Abdullah? He's still the main pass-catching running back here.
He is, and he only had 2 less carries than Sincere, but again, if I just can't do it. Like, I get it, there's a bunch of teams on bye, maybe you're desperate, but man, having one of these guys in my lineups does not feel good. I'm going to avoid him as well.
I feel he's about as fantasy relevant as McCormick because he could score a touchdown. He's done it a couple times. Look, in these rough times of Week 14, you could flex him. Now, on the other side, Bucky Irving. I mean, we seriously debated just putting him in the must-start category. With that said, he's got to be at least a strong start.
Maybe the strongest of the strong starts. I mean, I don't think there's anybody outside of the must-starts that I would start over Bucky Irving this week.
You honestly could have a league winner on your hands with Bucky Irving because this matchup is just okay as far as the Raiders' run defense, and it gets so much better the rest of the way. So you have Bucky Irving. Just continue to ride him. And I'll tell you what, let's take it a step further. You do your NFL picks. Go ahead and lock this one in early. Right now, Bucky Irving, they got him at 65.5 rushing yards against the Raiders. I mean, he doubled that last week. I'm taking this. I'm going higher. Well, if you haven't tried Underdog yet and you're thinking about signing up, you can take this and pair it with that free pick that I mentioned, Jordan Love, just getting 1 yard. It's a great chance to win right off the bat. So where does that leave Rachaad White, who is showing he still has some value even with Bucky breaking out?
Yeah, I think Rachaad White is a flex start this week because he is still involved. The Bucs run game has been really good, and it's the Raiders.
I think he'll probably kind of settle into that flex tier most of the rest of the season. Don't know that they'll need him a whole lot in terms of the passing game, but he always has touchdown upside as well. Now we got the Jaguars and the Titans. All right, it feels like it's been forever since the Jags had fantasy relevance at the running back position despite having 2 kind of talented runners. So let's start with Travis Etienne.
Against the Titans, I know Brian Robinson just had a nice game against them, but before that, the run defense had been really good for the Titans. I don't think the Jags O-line is going to do Travis Etienne any favors here. It might be Mac Jones starting. I'm going to avoid Travis Etienne.
Exactly. I mean, Travis Etienne, I know everybody wishes they avoided him on draft day. Too late for that. Look, I can't have any confidence in this run game because, like you mentioned, the O-line, the quarterback play, this team is running from behind almost all the time. So I'm just going to avoid Travis Etienne, and let's just take it a step further. I'm going to avoid Tank Bigsby as well. I don't want any part of this run game that has done nothing in the past several weeks.
Exactly. I'm not starting Tank Bigsby either.
Now, running backs going against the Jaguars, this is a different story. What about Tony Pollard?
I mean, this feels like you should just say, oh, strong start, smash spot for Tony Pollard. And it is a smash spot, but we saw again with Tyjae Spears back last week. Only 8 carries. He did catch 4 passes at least, but it's just weird. Like when Tyjae Spears plays, Tony Pollard his touches just drop off so significantly with Tyjae Spears. But it is the Jaguars. He's been mostly good. I'll say solid start.
Now, I do think last week a big part of this was the fact that they were getting blown out of the water in the first quarter. I mean, they just had no chance to even try to run the ball. So, also, going to realize Pollard, remember on that kick return, he fumbled, and maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. This should be a big bounce back game. I'm going to put him in the strong start tier because this feels like everything put together could make for a nice Pollard week. So do you think that Tyjae Spears has any place in fantasy lineups this week?
No, not getting involved enough. You got to avoid Tyjae Spears, even against the Jags.
I'll go there. I think Pollard still has pretty much a stranglehold on this backfield. I'm avoiding Spears. The Seahawks are going to be at the Cardinals this week. Let's start with Kenneth Walker. Look, once upon a time this season, he was a must start. I mean, Kenneth Walker was rolling, but it feels like it's been a while. In fact, Kenneth Walker has been pretty bad from a fantasy standpoint for over a month. Would you consider benching Kenneth Walker?
I don't think I could bench him. I mean, we're still talking about a workhorse running back here who I think is still an explosive running back and I think still has touchdown upside. And he gets the Arizona Cardinals this week. That doesn't scare me, but man, I think I'm going to drop Kenneth Walker down to the solid start, and I almost feel like I should drop him to flex, but for some reason I can't do it. Solid start.
Yeah, I will say, if it weren't for so many running backs being out this week and so many fewer options out there on waivers and such, I might put him as just a flex. Let's just keep him in that solid tier. Again, this Cardinals team that he just played recently and had a mediocre performance against 41 rushing yards. He did save his day though as a receiver in that game. He could always maybe score, break away a long run. I think it's still in him, so he's a solid option. And his backup, Zach Charbonnet, did score a touchdown last week, but does Charbonnet have any relevance?
Only if he scores a touchdown again. I mean, he really barely touched the ball in that game, so this is complete touchdown or bust. I know it's the bipocalypse, but I'm still not doing it.
No, this is still just a handcuff, just a stash. Not someone you should start. And then for Arizona, James Conner, still the main man there. Also a guy that's slowed down a lot recently. How do you feel about him?
Well, as predicted, after signing that big contract, they gave him a bazillion touches, 20 touches in that game, but he didn't do a whole lot with them. Seahawks run defense doesn't scare me. He always has touchdown upside, but I can only say James Conner a solid start.
And he's also a guy very similar to Kenneth Walker, despite Conner being older, has been a lot less efficient lately. He also didn't have a big game when these two teams just met. I'm going to keep him in the solid tier as well. Is the rookie Trey Benson a guy that you might be interested in?
No, only 3 carries last week. Can't do it.
No, can't do it. And I feel like I saw more Amari DeMarcado than Trey Benson when I was watching that game. So, gotta say no. Bills at the Rams. James Cook did, in fact, boom last week. Can he do it again, this time on the road?
He could. Rams run defense shouldn't scare you. This guy's got massive touchdown upside, big play potential. I think James Cook a strong start this week.
He's got to be. This Rams front line isn't really slowing down running backs too much. James Cook is a guy who can always score. Strong start for sure. Now, what about Ray Davis, the rookie? He also had himself a touchdown, showing some explosiveness, but are there enough opportunities?
That's the thing. They were absolutely destroying the 49ers. It was in the snow. This is probably not going to be that kind of game. I think the Bills will win, but I don't think they're going to just massacre the Rams here. So Ray Davis, another one of these guys, not enough touches, can't start him this week.
Right. I'm going to say no, although I will say out of all of these options, if for some reason you're desperate and you need a flex because you're down bad in the buys, he's not the worst because he could score, but you shouldn't need to start him. The Bears at the 49ers, these are two teams going in opposite directions. With that said, before we tackle that 49ers backfield, what's left of it, DeAndre Swift. He's one guy who has not benefited from the change at OC. Do you think he gets better this week?
I think he does. Last week, the second half, they just didn't even try to run the ball, right? They just had to throw. They were playing from so far from behind. I don't feel like this 49ers offense can do that to this Bears defense this year. I think this will be a more competitive game. 49ers run defense has not been strong. We're still not sure about Nick Bosa. I'm not going to say DeAndre Swift is a great start this week, but I think you could flex him.
Agree. This looked like a scary matchup early in the season, but now it's looking like a pretty good one. Still, Swift hasn't been the guy who's been the focus since Thomas Brown started calling plays. It's been Caleb Williams in the passing game. So I'll just say he's a flex as well. Then RB2 / touchdown vulture Rashawn Johnson did leave early. He's in the concussion protocol. If he plays, could he be a flex?
Only a touchdown or bust flex. So if you're in a non-PPR league and you're desperate, sure. But outside of that, no.
Exactly what you said. Flex only in non-PPR. All right, now for San Francisco, you already know Isaac Guerrero is basically the last man standing. CMC and Jordan Mason in one fell swoop done for the regular season. So how interested should we be in Isaac Guerrero?
I think we got to be pretty interested here. The Bears, for as good of a defense as they are, not great against the run. We know this guy has home run ability every time he touches the ball. The last time he played when Jordan Mason was out, he got all the receptions as well, which was nice to see. 4 targets, 3 receptions in that game. I don't know if I can say Guerrero is a strong start this week, but I think he might be the most solid of the solid starts.
I get what you're saying here. It's hard to put your trust in a guy who's never been the lead back, but again, this 49ers offense, as disappointing as it's been, it can still support a high-end running back. Look at what happened before Both these guys got hurt. CMC was on his way to a pretty good game. Jordan Mason still wound up with good rushing numbers despite the fact that they were getting blown out here. Isaac Guerrero was pretty much getting all the touches. So a very solid start against the Bears defense. Like you said, that's bottom 5 against the run. Chargers taking on the Chiefs in Arrowhead this week. You know J.K. Dobbins is gone. He's on IR. Gus Edwards didn't exactly pick up the slack last week. Does he do any better?
Against the Chiefs, the number 1 run defense, there's some guys like we just talked about, like Rashawn Johnson. He is literally like he either scores or gives you nothing. That's almost how Gus Edwards is, even though he's technically the lead back. I'm not doing it. I'm not starting Gus Edwards.
He honestly just hasn't looked good this season, except for maybe one game. He kind of looked good in his first game back from injury. On the road here, no. Let's not do this. So for the rookie Kamani Vidal, is he more of an avoid, or do you somehow think he'll be a better option?
Yeah, he's just as much of an avoid. I mean, I hope they start giving him more touches over Gus Edwards, but you can't trust that. You can't start him.
Well, the one thing is he could and probably should be used a lot more as a receiver out of the backfield. But let's see it first, right? Let's see him actually be productive in an NFL game and get more than just a small handful of touches before we say we're going to put him in a lineup. I know it's by apocalypse, but still, let's sit him for this week. Now for the Chiefs, it's probably going to become less of a committee and more just Isaiah Pacheco's backfield. Does that happen this week?
I think so, but this is not a great spot against the Chargers, and he didn't look, fully all the way back just yet. He's in this Chiefs offense. He could score, but I can't put him as anything more than a flex this week.
I mean, it's easy to say we can just ignore Kareem Hunt now, but it doesn't mean Pacheco is just auto start. Not a good matchup, like you said. It might take some time for him to really get his feet under him. That said, at least he's in that Chiefs offense. I'll say, with the options available this week, I'll say he's at the lower end of the solid tier. I guess I already gave this away, but Kareem Hunt, there's no way I can play him.
No, this is definitely got to avoid Kareem Hunt.
And Monday Night Football will be the Bengals at the Cowboys. If you got Chase Brown, consider yourself lucky. You can start him without even thinking about it. Now the Cowboys, now all of a sudden, have just given the backfield to Rico Dowdle. Does that mean he is approaching strong start status?
This is actually close this week for me because it is the Bengals and we see how bad this defense has been, and he absolutely dominated this backfield. Zeke only 1 touch, so. But that being said, it's still Rico Dowdle. It's still the Cowboys. I can't quite say strong start, but I'll say very solid start.
All right, well, that's good enough for me. That's exactly what I'm feeling. I almost want to say he's a strong start, but still. The Cowboys could get blown out here. They might not be able to run the ball as much. He was great last week, but that was against the Giants. So I think he is at least a solid start, though. You want to clinch that playoff berth, improve your standing, whatever it takes. We're here to help you. So before your fantasy playoffs start, check out all the videos we have to offer for Week 14.